Hi everyone, I'm John C. Morley, the host of the JMOR Tech Talk Show and Inspirations for Your Life. Well, hey guys, welcome to the JMOR Tech Talk Show. It is another wonderful Friday. This is February 20th, 2026. We only have one more Friday left in the beautiful month of February. It's great to have you here. If it's the very first time that you're joining me, I want to take this opportunity to say welcome and thank you for joining me. If you're coming back and you've been here many times, well, I want to say welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate those that appreciate the content and want to apply that to their lives. If you have not checked out believemeachieve.com, what are you waiting for? Go check that out right after the show at believemeachieve.com. You can get my short form content, my long form content. You can get reels, articles, and so much more. So definitely check that out. All right, guys. What I want to say to you guys, if you're thirsty, you're hungry, or what have you, feel free to go grab yourself like a drink. It could be RO water. It could be a snack, a beverage, candy, whatever it is, or even fruit, healthy or not. That's up to you. And come on back to the show. All right, guys, let's kick this show off. Are you ready? I know I am. I know a lot of you have been waiting, and technology has been, how can we say, technology has been roaring, pretty quickly. And so tonight's show, I think, is going to shed a lot of insight to things maybe that you didn't know about and give you some, what I want to call perspective. Okay. All right, everyone. So like I said, welcome. The show's title for tonight is 14 Tech Shocks You Can't Ignore. AI, Big Tech, and the Future of Control. Welcome, everyone, once again to the JMOR Tech Talk Show. Who am I, if you're wondering? Oh, sure, I'll be happy to introduce myself. I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur, engineer, marketing specialist, video producer, podcast host, coach, keynote speaker, graduate student, and a passionate lifelong learner. And pretty soon, in a few months, I will be a published author, and I'm really excited about that. In case you guys are wondering, yes, it's a motivational book. I'm not going to share too many more details other than it's going to probably be somewhere between 12 and 15 chapters. I've just finished writing up through chapter 8. I'll be starting chapter 9 probably later today or tomorrow. So again, really excited about that. The release date is going to be mid-May or early, I should say late May or early June. So like I said, lots of great stuff coming today with our episode titled 14 Tech Shocks You Can't Ignore. AI, Big Tech, and the Future of Control. I'll explore 14 viral tech trends from basically this past week and share what's actually going on. I think you guys will find interesting what AI, big tech, government's innovation are doing to reshape our world. From the billion-dollar bond confidence to robots learning human precision, from regulatory scrutiny to revolutionary wireless energy, these stories define where control, opportunity, and disruption collide. And I think you guys are going to find this pretty interesting. The first one is Alphabet bond confidence. So Alphabet raised $31 billion with almost no protections, yet investors lined up. That's real AI conviction, isn't it? And I think a lot of people, when you think about these things, you're like, well, what is this? What is this like? What does all this mean? And so sometimes when something gets stalled, it's not because something is bad. It's because people are hesitant. They don't really know like what's going to happen or why something is going to happen. I think that's a very important insight that a lot of people. Well, I'm going to say that they miss the boat on that one. All right, they missed the boat. And so tonight I'm going to be sharing all these different topics and giving you some more insight on them. But I think to dive into this very first one, which I think is a really cool one, is Alphabet's bond sale. And it kind of says it all, doesn't it? So Alphabet raised, like I said, 31.5 billion in bonds with almost no investor protections, and the demand still topped at 100 billion. So that's not caution, guys. That's confidence in AI dominance. So big tech isn't just building AI; it's rewriting the rules for, well, our global capital economy and the universe at large. And I think a lot of times when people hear these things, they're like, oh, that's not going to go anywhere. And so I'm not telling you AI is good. I'm not telling you AI is bad. AI is a tool, and how we choose to use it is what actually makes it so. So I think that's a very important thing that I want all of you to really take note on. Number two for this week is robots learning human touch. So machines are mastering skills once reserved just for human hands. Clearing aviation bottlenecks is kind of where they want to go with this, but is that really where they're going to go? Yeah. So this is actually pretty cool, guys. When we think about what's happening, and we think about the whole facet of what people are doing, I think it's kind of cool, but I think we also have to be a little bit cautious as to what's going on and why things are going on. So a little bit more into the mix. GE Aerospace is teaching robots what the human touch is all about. GE Aerospace is turning to robots, AI, and lean methods in Singapore to clear jet engine repair backlogs. By teaching machines precision blade once only done by hand techniques, GE is aiming to boost repairs by what they claim will be 33% without expanding any floor space. Now, automation won't fix everything, so don't think it's going to be a fix for everything. Parts and labor shortages are going to remain, but this is how aviation starts unclogging one of its biggest bottlenecks. And we've said before that fixing jet planes, that's a danger. I mean, working with those engines, especially being close to them, if something happens, I mean, what do you do, right? I mean, you believe that everybody took the right, let's say, the right precautions, but suppose they didn't. Suppose something happened while somebody was working on those engines. So this is what's going on, and I think GE Aerospace is definitely starting to push the envelope. And I think it's not just going to be GE Aerospace that does this. I think we're going to see this with a lot of other companies that are going to be expanding into this new realm. And so, as we said before, AI is not just about a piece of hardware, it's about services. And services can be done for one thing, they can be done as an infrastructure. There's a lot that can be done with AI. And I think if most people understand or start to realize what could go on, it could give us some real potential breakthroughs in our life and many others. Number three, guys, Russia blocks WhatsApp. So when a country blocks an app, it's not about software, guys. It's about control over communication. And I think control has always been something that's been going on for a very long time. And like I said, so Russia just pulled the plug on the WhatsApp just recently. So Russia has fully blocked the WhatsApp, pushing users toward what they claim is a state-backed alternative as it tightens control over digital communication during wartime. Officials call it, quote unquote, compliance. Critics call it, quote, surveillance. More countries are testing where tech freedom ends and state power begins. I think a lot of people think that security is being done in a manner that's for the greater good of all concerned, but really it's not. And we'll get more into this. I think we're being, let's say, told one thing. Unfortunately, what we're finding out is that what's being shared to us is not 100% truthful. It's not 100% truthful. And I'm not saying that other things can't be truthful, but what they're giving us is a lot of garbage right now. Because let's face it, guys, it's all coming down to money. Yeah, it's all coming down to money. And they're trying to hide and say it isn't. But the truth of the matter is, it is coming down to money. All right. Number four, guys, the European Union is up to its things again, yes, versus Google's ads. And we thought this was done. Nope. Google, we're still coming after you. Looks like ad prices don't just affect marketers, they determine who gets seen and who disappears. And it's something how one platform can have so much power. Now, the European Union is taking an aim at Google's ad auctions. The European Union regulators are questioning whether Google is unfairly driving up online ad prices, raising the risk of another antitrust clash for the tech giant. Already has been fined billions in Europe for advertisers and big tech. The scrutiny is far from over. And, let's call a spade here. Google obviously wants to comply, but they will do what they can to get what they need just under the wire. And if that's barely being legal, but it's still legal, well, I got news for you. They're going to try to do that because at the end of the game with Google and all these big companies, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Yahoo, Verizon, whoever it is, they're all playing the game that they need to just stay as close to the wire. You know what this reminds me of? If you ever played soccer or baseball, right? Or let's say even basketball, more so in soccer and basketball, you want to keep the ball as close to the edge. So when somebody's trying to get out, right? And if you, for example, know that you have the ball, but the other person hits it out of your hand and you're right at the edge, then you're going to get the ball back, right? And there's a penalty. But I think a lot of people, when they see this or they hear this, they're like, well, this doesn't make a lot of sense. But the fact that Google could just be, let's say, this giant that controls when and if something is seen. And a lot of times, the algorithm is not based on anything that's really concrete. They claim it is, but we really don't get information as to the how, is to the why. We just don't get it. And this frustrates some people. Everybody says, well, Google's got some great this, great that. Well, that's wonderful. But if those are one-offs, if those are things that we can't reach because Google has locked them out for certain audiences, then maybe Google or Facebook, whoever we're using, is not our medium. I think that's something a lot of people don't realize. I mean, I stopped using Google as a search engine a long time ago. And so I just feel that Google is very biased on what it shows you. Do I use it sometimes? Yeah. But then when I see that they push certain things in a biased way, it makes me just want to go back to my old search engine that I know I've configured to use. And so when we think about searching online and we think about why somebody doesn't come up, somebody has to be an authority to come up on Google. And that's rated by basically rankings, SEO rankings, which are also attributed to things like the number of links that you have on your page, the number of links that you have inbound to your site, right? From high PR quality sites, high ranking, right? Not the low ranking. And there are companies out there that will charge you money to do that. But at the end of the day, guys, it doesn't work. There are companies online that are on these, let's say, platforms that start with an F and with an R. And what happens with these platforms is, they're supposed to be doing the right thing. But unfortunately, they do things like, we're going to get you traffic. I've had people lots of times saying, oh, John, we're going to get you traffic to your podcast. In the beginning, our team looked at it and we realized that it wasn't organic. We realized that they weren't building anything that wasn't going to last for any more than the period we were paying them. And I said, that's not really a value. That's a scam. But so what they do is you pay them and then they get interactions based on a certain amount of numbers. But these people are not really interested. They're really not wanting to engage in what content you put out because there's no loyalty. They're basically getting tapped to come and visit you. I mean, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And thinking about Google or thinking about any other search engine out there, if a search engine does not fairly show the quality of the net, I think that search engine is doing a disservice to not only them, the people that are using it. And I think that's important no matter where you stand, what part of the world you're in, what race, religion, orientation, creed, color you're in. It doesn't matter, guys. So we have to be aware of that. Number 5, guys, that is AI stock shock. Yeah, this is a funny one. AI used to lift all stocks. Now, one headline can sink billions overnight. That's a scary thought, isn't it? That a headline could sink things overnight. So, as I said, AI isn't lifting all the stocks anymore. AI was supposed to lift every stock. In 2026, it's starting to do the opposite. What started as a broad AI rally is now a minefield where a single headline can just wipe out billions overnight. Software, wealth management, insurance, even mega caps are feeling this, well, sudden shock. This isn't about hype anymore, guys. It's about survival, stock pricing, and avoiding implosions as AI is continuing to reshape who wins and who sinks. But are the games and rules fair? I have to say no, because AI is learning from people, unfortunately, that are trying to manipulate it, right? If we think of Google as a search engine, and we think of people trying to manipulate Google, and that can cause consequences. But if we think about the fact of AI being unbiased, and then suddenly people do the same thing they did to Google. Like, you remember what happened many years ago where they had websites where people were stuffing keywords in the page, and they were doing it in a very clever way where they would put the keyword on there and then they would hide it, but Google would still see it. Pretty interesting, right? And so as we think about AI and we think about stocks and we think about what it's doing, I think one clear thing I'm learning is that we need to always have a human in the loop. That's something I've said for years. But another thing we have to make sure of is that we are not oppressing, or the opposite of that, overexpressing a stock because of one situation, one political response. That's becoming politics. It's not becoming a neutral source. And I've learned before that news is about being unbiased. However, most of the media today, if you watch, put stories on about leading and bleeding. Okay? Because that's what their readers want. I don't know about you, but that's not what I'd want if I'm reading a paper or I'm reading something online. I want to know the truth from day one. Not when I've had a chance to discover that they're actually lying to us. But many people are realizing that a lot of reporters in the past, now there are some good ones, that they have lied about the situation, about consequences, exaggerated facts, maybe underestimated some truths. And you might say to me, John, this is interesting, but how did this get this way? Well, very simple. Media is starting to get controlled by AI, in case you didn't know that. And that's why it's very important that AI is not the be-all, end-all, that we have humans in the loop to help us on the process. And I know that sounds crazy, but when you feed garbage in, you know what you get, guys? You get garbage out. So garbage in is garbage out. That's a very, very important thing to understand, okay? And so when we think about this, it causes us to ask questions like, is AI really making the right decision? Is AI's decision based on logic, or is it based on bias? I know, like my school, Montclair University, and other schools have these panelists come in, and they try to talk on things. But I have to tell you something. A lot of times these people come in, and they're supposed to be giving unbiased information. They're not. They're speaking on the bias for which money is getting put in their pocket. And I think that's the problem with a lot of people many are consulting today. People that have big AI names out there are never going to tell you the truth. They're going to tell you what they want to share with you. Sounds familiar, right? Like the media. They don't always tell you the truth. They tell you not what you want to hear. They tell you what they want to share with you. I think that's a pretty interesting thing. Number 6, guys, OpenAI versus DeepSeek. So this isn't competition anymore, guys. It's an AI Cold War over who builds and who copes. Yeah, that's a very harsh way to put that, but it ultimately is the truth. Yeah, it's the truth. And maybe you're saying to me, John, no, it's not the truth. I'm like, yes, it is. So OpenAI accuses China's DeepSeek of free riding US AI models. OpenAI is warning US lawmakers that China's DeepSeek allegedly bypassed safeguards to copy and distill American AI models. Now, the claim is this: covert access, masked routes, and systematic extraction of outputs to train rival systems. This isn't just competition anymore, guys. It's an AI Cold War over who builds, who copies, and who controls the future of intelligence. And I think the more that we ponder the thought of, how is AI getting fed? Where is it learning its information? How is it discerning truth from non-truth? And what we're going to find is that AI is doing its very best to operate within its parameters, but AI makes a lot of mistakes. So when you create a prompt, you have to be very specific. This must be in order. This can't be a duplicate. I mean, these sound like common things, but AI has something called an extension engine. And we'll call the extension engine basically its ability to take something and re-extend it or concatenate it and then rebuild it over and make it larger. But when it does this, it actually duplicates content. Sometimes so bad that a sentence you might put up there like, this is the way it always should be in the United States and people care. This is the way it should always be in the United States and people care. This is the way it should always be in the United States and people care. Now, that doesn't sound like anything crazy, guys, but I'm here to tell you something. It's a very beginning form of manipulation. And we know from the past that manipulation is not something we should be proud of. Manipulation is a very, let's say, aggressive form of persuasion. Persuasion is the ability to get someone to come over to your viewpoint or to change the viewpoint they're on. But when we talk about manipulation, that's a direct intent to use more than maybe just simple persuasion tactics to get you to change your mind. Now, politicians do it all the time. Drug companies do it all the time. Advertisers do it all the time. Does that mean that it's right? Absolutely not. But yet, why are people getting away with it? I think the reason people are getting away with it is because it seems so innocent. It seems so harmless that how can something like trying to get you to change your opinion be bad at all? And I don't want to use the word bad. I want to use the word forming mistrust or distrust. And once we see the kind of mistakes that AI makes, or the way AI can do things like fabricate a false case, and then you're going before a judge and a judge is like, this isn't a real case. But it has people on the edge because they think it's real. People are using AI every day to fool others. Bad actors are using AI. Unfortunately, guys, that's important for you to understand. Yeah. And number 7, guys, Turkey starts to crack down on OnlyFans money. What's this about? Well, when money moves digitally, I don't know if you know this, but governments follow across borders, platforms, and even crypto systems. Now, this might have you holding your head a little bit, but when I say that Turkey cracks down on the OnlyFans money trail, authorities in Turkey detained 16 people. Get this, ladies and gentlemen. They seized nearly 7 million in assets. 7 million assets in a sweeping probe tied to content monetized on OnlyFans. That's sick, guys. Let me say that again. All right. Authorities in Turkey, seized nearly 7 million in assets in a sweeping probe tied to content monetized on OnlyFans. Now, this is all, ladies and gentlemen, despite the platform being banned. Investigators say that VPNs, crypto, gold, and property were used to move and hide money, unfortunately. Now, this isn't just about content, it's about enforcement, digital borders, and how governments are tightening control over online income streams. And this is becoming more of a challenge for the government to manage, and even for creators that are, let's say, doing things that are outside of the legal realm. What they're doing is they're trying to commit these kinds of issues in other states, I should say not just other states, but other countries, because those countries may not have a lot of jurisdiction from somebody who resides in the United States. Pretty sly, pretty below the belt, if you ask me. But this is something that we need to be aware of as a society, not as just one person, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Not as just one person. And I think if we can understand that piece, and we can understand that AI itself, again, is not good, it's not bad. It pulls information from a variety of sources. And by doing that, you know what happens? It then makes a decision. It decides which way something should go or not go. That's something I think that a lot of people out here watching or listening today are saying to me, John, AI has been giving us information, but the information AI is giving us, we're finding, is wrong. A system that's being trusted as an authority is now giving wrong information, and not just on one account, but many accounts. You're like, oh, that's no big deal. And number 8, guys, Italy targets Amazon. Europe isn't whispering to big tech. They're knocking hard. What's this all about? So the Indian tax police searched Amazon's Milan headquarters and seized managers' devices in a widening probe over alleged unpaid taxes. At the center, whether Amazon quietly operated a permanent base in Italy for years while routing revenue elsewhere, this isn't just one company. It's a warning shot as Europe tightens the screws on big tech's tax playbook. So they're hoping that by sending a message to Amazon, because they're so large, because they're so big, that they're going to get cooperation, not just from them, but they're going to scare other big tech companies from attempting to do something. Let's talk about something in school for a moment, right? Let's say somebody you know in your class gets in trouble. A common thing I know in my grammar school class, or even high school, was we had this one kid, he would make spitballs. And so he had the kind of pen that you took apart. It was a Bic pen. You took it apart, you took the ink out, and he used that as a loader. And the thing about a spitball is you take a tiny piece of paper, you wet it with your mouth, you put it in there, and so when it hits somebody, it's a little disgusting. But that was one thing he did. And another thing he would do is he would make footballs, little mini footballs, and kind of fling them. He would also take a rubber band and just kind of fling at people. Now, the one teacher in our class, it was actually our math class, and she would call the person by name, and she would usually call them by their first, middle, and last name, which meant she was really upset with them. And she would just basically, in the middle of her class, to be courteous to the rest of the class, Hall. Now. And she's like, read chapter such and such, or go over the problems together and do it quietly. So she would talk to the person in the hallway. And then when she brought the person back in the room, she would put them in the back corner. Now, classrooms had 4 corners. That's how our classrooms were. They were a square or a rectangle. And the interesting thing about this was that she put somebody in the corner, okay? And during the class, you might look back, like, oh, don't look at him. Don't give him attention. You don't need to. Don't give him any attention, because he's going to be a clown, and we don't need to edge the clown on to do more. And so she's like, turn around. And you too, turn around and face the corner. I remember one time, so that was basically a warning to people not to do that. So then what she did was something a little more, let's say, um, attention getting. So one day, people were doing spitballs, and that was the most offending thing was the spitballs. It was done through this entire class. I think it was done through, it was done through a math class, and then it was also done through a science class because the lady taught both. And she immediately didn't say whole or anything like that. She goes, Mr. Such and Such, or whatever the name was, detention. So, but what? I didn't do anything. I was detention. So after class, go up there. You have detention with me at 3 o'clock next Wednesday. So you can make arrangements to tell your mom or dad to make sure they pick you up. So I remember him telling me he went to detention, and she got a huge, well, not that huge, but basically our trash bins, which is like a small office, but it was big for what needed to be done. And she told the two people that were going to detention to make spitballs. And so they started this at 3 o'clock. Okay. And detention was supposed to be, I think it was 2 hours. So around quarter to the hour, the people were getting very tired. What did they have to do? They had to make spitballs and fill up a garbage container. Now that whole concept is enough to really send you whirling. And after the student told, the kids in the class, what happened and what detention was like, nobody ever even thought about building or launching a spitball. So I guess European Union is trying to do the same thing with these big techs. Say, look, guys, we're giving you a warning now. You're not all going to get a warning. You're getting a warning now, the whole industry. So we're setting this warning, and if you don't follow it, you're going to get the horns. I remember seeing something on TV. There was an attorney. He was talking. He said something like, I think he was called the bull and the horns. And he was like, he's like, if you mess with the bull, you get the horns. It was some attorney that was his name Bull or something. If you mess with the bull, you're going to get the horns. So same thing they're trying to say here. If you mess with the bull, which is the European Union, you're going to get the horns. You're going to get in trouble. Yeah, that was a very, very interesting thing that happened. And hopefully Amazon will get the hint that they better clean up their act. Number 9, guys, European Union turns up the heat on Google's ad regulators, questioning ad pricing, are also questioning who controls the attention. And I think when we think about this, it gets a little crazy, but the European Union turns up the heat on Google's ad machine. Google is facing a fresh antitrust probe as the European Union investigates whether search ad prices are being unfairly rigged. At stake is the core of Google's money engine and whether Europe will redraw the rules of digital advertising power. Now, this is more than regulation, guys. It's a direct challenge to how big tech prices basically get attention for themselves. And you might think this is a good thing, but no, it's a bad thing. Because if one company is permitted to do this, okay, that sends a message back to everyone that I guess we can do this too. Same thing happened in our class, right? If one person threw a spitball and they get away with it, well, more people, 2, 3, 4, 5. But why didn't those people get caught and go to detention? Well, because when the teacher made the announcement that you better knock it off, we're going to get detention, guess what? They did. But not only that, when they saw that the first person, the ringleader, was getting caught and going to detention, they're like, oh, we're out. Like, we're not supporting you anymore. And this is the same thing that's happening with Google, with European Union, with Amazon, and other places. Because, people think that just because you have a lot of money, you could do whatever the heck you want. I'm here to tell you, no, you can't. You are going to get in trouble. Trouble might mean fines. Trouble might mean legal damages, such as removals of certain products or services from your company. So this can be pretty serious, guys. And I think a lot of people today watching are saying, Google can do whatever they want. And I'm here to tell you, no, they can't. And that's a very important thing to understand, right? Understanding the European Union targeting Google's ad empire. And when the pressure keeps coming back, it's structural, guys. It is not random. And when we know something is structural, and we know it's not random, we pay attention to what's going on. Not because we think we have a problem. We already know we have a problem. And that problem is going to exacerbate itself, is going to cause discommunication with many entities, companies, and even people that don't want to be associated with that tag anymore. That gets pretty serious if you ask me. With Google facing the antitrust probe as the European Union investigates whether search ad prices are being unfairly rigged, I mean, we know at the end of the day, the European Union is not going to quit. And we thought in the beginning that because Google had a lot of money, that they probably could just kind of buy their way out of this by giving a little bit of money. But no, the European Union doesn't want any part of that. They want this to be handled. And they want to make sure that justice prevails. And that, yeah, Google or whoever gets punished. So they don't try to do this again. They want to make Google, Amazon, or any other tech company an example. Because just like in the student analogy, when we make a student example, everyone's like fearing, like, what are we going to do? What are we going to say? And suddenly all those people that were supporting you, well, they're out. And the ringleader was like, well, what happened? I'm out. I need to get a B or an A this semester. And if my dad or my parents find out that I'm throwing spitballs and I am going to detention, I'm going to be grounded for so long. And so you might say, gee, what's the big deal? When we say grounded, well, might lose access to TV, might lose access to games, might lose access to a lot of different things that are happening. And so I think these are interesting things. I know we're getting rings here, so I am traveling. And unfortunately, not in our home studio, so sometimes we do get some disruptions like a phone call. Sorry about that. But, showing us technology and showing us the pressure of what's happening. The fact that nobody wants to be, let's say, on the outside. So suddenly all the people that the ringleader thought he or she had, they're no longer part of the game anymore. They're now out. And number 11, guys, is very important. And that is Finland sends electricity through air. No plugs, no pads, devices charge through straight air. It's the future of energy, guys. This is where things are going. There are a lot of people out there saying this is nonsense, but Finland has proved that they've done this. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we don't see this in the next year or two, because this is a huge innovation, guys. So Finland, as I said, just proved electricity can travel through the air. This isn't sci-fi anymore. Okay, Finnish researchers have successfully sent electricity wirelessly using sound waves, electromagnetic fields, and radio systems. This is not some made-up malarkey that they've done to try to get themselves on the map. No plugs, no pads, devices charging just by being in the room. And warehouse robots and electronic vehicles are already testing it as we speak. Power lines aren't gone yet, but this is the clear signal that a cord-free energy future has, already started to begin. And a lot of people are saying to me, John, this is not true. This isn't right. And people are saying this because they're trying this new concept. I've had so many people reach out to me and say, John, that's not true. That's not true. And they have no grounds to say it's not true when there is evidence that Finland has done this. So I think that's a big, big problem. And ladies and gentlemen, Google recovers deleted quote unquote video in the cloud. Yes, deleted means, in their case, it doesn't mean gone. It means waiting to be retrieved. Now, that's a little bit of scary pretense there. So Google helped recover deleted video in a high-profile FBI case. Engineers at Google played a key role in recovering critical security footage after investigators initially believed no video existed. Now, even without a paid subscription, residual cloud data from Nest cameras can persist long enough for experts to pull images back from the digital void. It's a powerful reminder in the cloud era, deleted doesn't always mean gone. And I tell people this every day. If you post something online and you delete it, or you ask a provider to remove it, it doesn't mean it's gone. It might be off their servers, but it could be cached in Google's. It could be cached in other search engine servers. And there's no, well, let's say 100% way to guarantee that data has been permanently removed from every place that it could show up again on the internet. We learned, well, it was about last year. It's around April 24th, April 25th, that ChatGPT removed the API link, which would take your whole conversation and publish it online literally within a few days. I've told people to make sure you turn off the option to improve the model. But this was crazy. You could talk about something, and then the next day or 2 days later, your whole conversation is now a public, searchable entity on the web. That was bad. But again, I want to let you know that deleted does not mean gone. So when you delete something, delete it and understand the respect that it has. You're deleting it, you're hoping it's gone, fine. You're trying to release space, great. But realize it might still be out there somewhere. So just understand that when you post something, all right, you don't physically have the control to do a complete undo. You know, many texting apps, I think it's Apple, you know, you can actually edit or even delete the message if it's within a certain period of time. After that, guys, you can't. But, you know, even though you've deleted or edited something, Google still has the original record of your original text. So that is a big, big problem for a lot of people. And like I said, Nest is just one way, but there are other systems out there too that store your data every day. A lot of these AI personal assistants. There was one that was actually bought out by Amazon, and I don't want any part of it because, and somebody asked me this the other day, I was in the airport and I was traveling, and somebody said to me, John, well, what does that mean? They had just seen my, my ID. And I said, well, in short, the government isn't sharing the truth about the technology. Your safety, your privacy. Everybody said, well, you know, when I said to her, I don't want to have my photo scanned, I wanted to opt out, which is my right when you go through, the first check before you get to security, like you have to show your password, whatever. So basically the normal way is you just show your face and you're good to go. But I didn't want to do that. So I went through and I basically showed them my boarding pass by putting that down and then giving her my real license with real ID, driver's license. And she came back. She said, well, why is it? You know, we already have your photo. I said, ma'am, it has nothing to do with you having my photo. It has to do with these third-party systems and then leaking data to people because, well, frankly, they're not being policed. And if that data gets released, I said, it's not you we don't trust, it's the third parties that could be exploiting our data. And then we have more complications like, well, things like identity theft and even more. So go ahead, ladies and gentlemen, and definitely be cautious whenever you are sharing information out. It's your right to know where it's going and how it's being handled. That's why the HIPAA Act is really a very, very great thing. Well, that's definitely interesting. Number 13, guys, an AI now may judge figure skating in the future. Humans argue this is a big bias, machines judging humans, but who is going to audit the algorithm? So that's a big concern that I have over this. I mean, was watching the Olympics, which goes until the end of next week, next Friday, which, by the way, means it's going to end officially with the closing ceremonies. I believe that's going to be February 27th. So AI may soon judge figure skating, not humans, right? An AI-powered system to basically judge figure skating. Can they put algorithms in to do something? Can they read sensors? Sure, they can do all that. But who is saying that doing this is actually going to be something that is done in the right way without bias? That's biased to race, religion, sexual orientation, creed, color, political party. I think a lot of times when we think about technology, it is implied that it's going to be ethical fashion. I'll tell you, when we got so many third parties waiting at the doorstep, I can't always tell you it's going to be done in the most professional and 100% unbiased fashion. That's the thing. I mean, let's think about how AI judging could work. So typically what'll happen is they may feed it data of what good skating is. They may also have it look at certain circles. They may give it certain rules. If they jump and their right foot is in the circle, good. If not, so they have to give it a lot of rules. And although they could do that, I just don't think that's going to be something that's going to make the Olympics and other sports fun anymore. I mean, I know it's a competition, but now the fact that they're going to use AI to examine somebody's behavior characteristics, I see that as another potential, well, loophole or leak for people's data. And you might say to me, John, what's the big harm of somebody, taking your picture at the airport? Well, let's just say, for example, that picture was on there and the server gets hacked. And let's say somebody goes in, grabs that picture, and now uses that to either create a passport or do something else. So that's a way, and then I could be in trouble because somebody used my identity. See, that's the problem. This is why I don't like voice print. I think TD uses voice print. Other companies and banks use other types of voice control. I don't like using those. So whenever they say that, I opt out and I say no. I say no, because saying yes means that I'm allowing the system to validate my identity by my voice. And I think if people were explained what this means and how you don't need a password, that your voice is your password, I think that creates a lot of bells, a lot of problems. And number 14, guys, is a fun one. Institutions leaving X when schools, cities, and police abandon a platform. Trust has already, collapsed. And when we think about, X and other platforms, I think the fact that we're bringing the universities, that's a big issue. So major institutions are quietly abandoning X, universities, city councils, charities, and police forces are choosing to step away from X as concerns grow over unregulated content, AI-generated, let's say, adult, unapproved images, and causing a reputational risk. What was once a core public-facing platform is now being seen by many organizations as unsafe, misaligned with their values, and difficult to defend publicly. This isn't just a social media shift anymore, guys. It's a warning about what happens when platforms lose trust faster than they gain reach. I want to talk about one this week. So I'm not going to give you the name of the platform, but you're going to figure it out from this. I was at home, and I went to create a post. And the platform started with, I believe it was the 6th letter of the alphabet. And you probably know because it's blue. And when I was logged in and I went to a certain group, I wanted to post something good. So I had prepared a picture and a pretty engaging piece of text to get people to comment. Well, as soon as I did that, it was in a private group that I belonged to. One of my it was a town community group that I belonged to. Within, I'm gonna say maybe 30 seconds of that post going live, I immediately got an email letting me know that my account had been suspended. So at first I thought it was some nonsense or some garbage, so I didn't really pay much attention to it. But then I came back a little bit later, and guess what? I found out that my account was suspended because I went back to the app and I went back to the website where it was, and it was suspended. So it's like you have to go through these steps. And one of the things you had to do, I did it from the phone. They wanted you to go through and verify your face, left, right, all this nonsense. And then you click the button, and then they said in order to speak to a representative, it would take about an hour. But there was no way to even wait for this representative. So I was actually leaving for church in the morning. This was actually, I believe, on I think it was actually on, it was on Wednesday. It was this past Wednesday. And so when I got to church, I still saw that the platform had still had me basically suspended. So I came out of church and I noticed that I got a message saying, "Congratulations, you can use such and such. Your account has been restored." Then it says, "Oh, by the way, we've added the following restrictions to your account." And I'm like, what the blank, right? What are they doing? And so I was like, what am I going to do? How am I going to go after these people? Like, this is like nonsense. This is like AI nonsense. And so I'm going to read you, again, excluding their name because I don't want to have their name on here, but I'm going to read you the message they sent me. So they sent me a message. Let me see if I find it here. The first message they sent me was actually one telling me the account had been suspended. So that's pretty straightforward. So then I decided to go online and actually request a review because these certain features that I couldn't use. And then within, I'm going to say, not even 3 seconds of clicking it, it says, review complete. We remove restrictions from your account. Hi, my first name. We found that our technology made a mistake adding restrictions to your account. They didn't say AI. They said our technology. Thank you for taking the time to request a review and helping us improve our systems. Our priority is keeping the community safe and respectful, so sometimes we have to take precautions. Okay, I get it, right? But if your AI, if your rules are that bad, okay, and we know what tripped it. I logged in from a new IP address because at home I don't have, I just have DHCP. I don't have I have a different IP all the time. So sometimes it changes. It was not a static IP from the WAN address. And so that caused a problem. And again, without giving you the name of the platform, I'm sure you guys can figure it out. They were not going to let me post anything or comment on a public group or any of the groups I run. They were not going to let me do that until February 25th. So that would basically be 1 week from when the violation happened at like 6 something in the morning. So my point is, I get why AI is here, okay? But if you just react to one thing and lock an account down, that's bad, guys. And then I stayed calm and I said, I'm going to request a review. I didn't think anything was going to happen. I figured they're going to get back to me in a day or two or whatever, some nonsense. But then immediately when I did that, they discovered that it had made a mistake. Now, why didn't they automatically check? Why did I have to go and request a review? Like, that was just like nonsense. Yeah. So people are implementing AI too fast. They're not understanding the benchmarks, how to check it, and to make sure it's doing the best for the greater good of all concerned. So, ladies and gentlemen, these 14 tech shocks that I've shared with you this evening show the acceleration and intersection of AI, artificial intelligence. Now, big tech and government regulation is still on the rise, and it's not happening yet, but it will. From financial bets to robotics, AI cold wars, and digital oversight, these trends reveal who is shaping the future of control. I said to you, when a country turns off an app, it's not about an app. It's about who has control. And I know as you're listening or you're watching the show, you're probably saying, John, this is deep. I said, well, AI is getting deep. And it's because people are pushing AI into environments without the proper safeguards. So again, a publicly traded company using AI, they don't even call it AI, they say their technology made a mistake. They didn't dare say the word AI. But you also can't get the people on the phone either. See, that's just bad, guys. I mean, that is really, really bad. I don't even mean it's a mistake. I mean, it's wrong from the corporate all the way up. It's not about using the technology wrong. It's all the way from the higher ups. I mean, this should never even be allowed to be implemented. I invite you, ladies and gentlemen, to please choose to stay informed, okay? Please stay aware. And I want you to understand how each day technology influences the markets, communication, and also builds and possibly destroys global trust. I also ask you to catch the latest full episode of the JMOR Tech Talk Show at believemeachieve.com. You can get my short form content, long form content, and of course, so much more. And of course, you'll stay motivated and you'll stay ahead of the tech curve. I think when we start to understand AI and we start to realize it without any biases in place, it actually is a tool that could help us. It could hurt us too if we use it without proper thought, without proper, let's say, considerations, without proper understandings. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. Do check out believemeachieve.com, and we'll see you guys next week, which is February 27th. Take care, everyone. Be well.